Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Salam Sadaf, and I work with entrepreneurs and help them focus on purpose and intention over profit. And I'm looking to start a couple of really fun series where I interview different entrepreneurs and ask them about hot topics that are relevant to all of you. And today I am super pumped because I have Christine Lieu here, and she's the expert behind CL Designs and the Brand Party podcast. Now, Christine and I have the same sales coach, and a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how COVID really changed the landscape for small businesses. So we're going to be getting into that and all of those little juicy details that you want to know in a bit. But Christine, hello, thanks for being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and to your YouTube community as well.
Amazing. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do? I kind of mentioned your podcast, but can you just explain a little bit more?
Yeah, you did such a great job. And so also I am a graphic designer who has traded in climbing the corporate ladder for climbing mountains around the world, though it's a little bit on pause due to everything that's going on. But with that, really helping serve purpose-driven businesses out there, create cohesive branding, website design, social content, marketing collateral to help you increase your impact and sales. And with Brand Party, it's made top 10 Canada Design, also Apple Podcast New and Noteworthy list, which is super exciting. And if you're looking for fun, honest, free advice for your branding and marketing in less than 30 minutes, then it's a great resource to check out as well.
I love that. And just the fact that it's called a party is like, yeah, of course, I want to listen to this. So I love that. I love that so much. I did have two things to ask you from what you just said. So one is you talked about trading in climbing the corporate ladder for climbing mountains. Can you kind of share that story with us?
Yeah, so I've always been really fascinated with just travel in general from a very young age. And they were also always sort of a bit differentiated, I guess, in terms of where I saw my life traveling versus where I saw my career path per se. They weren't always necessarily integrated as much as they are now. And so with that, I had a few opportunities to freelance for a period of time as well beforehand. And I'll preface, maybe give you a Spark Notes version of my life story. But essentially, I used to own a streetwear apparel brand that I had started about 10 years ago now, called In Lieu of. So yeah, it was just very much in lieu of what I needed in my life. A lot of close people in my life had passed away, and it just really inspired me to want to create something positive in the world. And so I learned a lot from that first startup, but just fell in love with the startup culture. And also then as I was graduating from my bachelor's of graphic design, needed a quote unquote real job. And so to pay the bills and everything, I ended up at a Rogers Media Publishing, working on brands for Walmart, McLean's. I was nominated for Digital Publishing Board during my time there, and then Sportsnet, MLSE, and then was at CBC Music as a graphic designer and digital associate producer before I had embarked on CL Designs full time. And so, I felt like I was just climbing the corporate ladder, and I'm really grateful for the opportunities that I had, for sure. And especially with immigrant parents, this work ethic and dedication is so embedded in the way that I show up in the world and how I approach a lot of things as well. And so with that, something just didn't feel quite right, that I feel like there was something more out there for me. And I owed it to myself to bet on myself to explore that a bit further. And so I sold everything off, booked a flight, and basically, quit my job the same day that I gave my resignation letter in. I had flown off to Greece that same afternoon and then came back to work for 3 weeks. And then, totally packed up for about 8 months on and off, and ended up doing Machu Picchu. I'm a big fan of hiking volcanoes as well. But that's kind of the short of it.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I didn't know pretty much any of that before. Wow. I feel like this conversation could go a whole different way now. It's so interesting to hear. There's always some sort of point in our life where we start to change that path and we get that vision of where we really want our life to, what we really want our life to be like. And I love hearing that. And is there any is there any kind of like analogy of like climbing a mountain to being an entrepreneur? Because yeah, I feel like maybe the challenge, I don't know, I'll pass that over to you.
No, I think you're on a great path, like with that analogy. So run with it for sure. But I feel like there's always these hurdles and the like next point in that journey that you're looking to climb towards, right? But it's like, where is the top where you can finally enjoy the view as well? I think is just as important to appreciate as well, and like to look back sometimes, not to like hinder our journey, but rather to appreciate and be grateful for how far we've come also.
That is like a tweetable, like that needs to be like one of those quotes that you have on your Instagram feed. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Because it's so true. We're always working on getting to that point of success. So like the top of the mountain, but the truth is it's not about when you get there. It's the journey and reflecting. Oh my God. I love that. So based on kind of using that to kind of segue into what we wanted to talk about, I guess when you are climbing these mountains, obviously you encounter these struggles along the way and points that are either, you know, really great milestones or points that maybe push you back a bit or like make you fall back a bit. And that's kind of like what COVID was for a lot of us when, you know, back in, what was it, 2020, I guess? I don't even know now. I feel like it's just always been like, yeah. So do you remember like where you were when that happened?
Yeah, I was in Toronto as well. So I wasn't traveling or anything, which I'm grateful for to an extent. Mind you, I didn't, you know, see my family or anything during that time. So I think that was really difficult as well. But just to see how it affected so many people around me and my clients as well, it was like really devastating because people pour so much heart and soul into everything that they do, and it really doesn't go unnoticed. And to have it just flash before you like that is incredibly heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was so difficult and you know, the first time we experienced something like that, and I know a lot of people have experienced loss, and it's almost like traumatic to revisit like where we were at that time and what happened. But what was the main way that your business was affected? Because you and I, both of us, our businesses are mainly online and people don't realize, you know, how we were affected. So yeah, how was your business affected?
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm interested to hear, yeah, your thoughts of how the whole system has kind of adapted from there too and evolved, because the digital landscape, especially in the branding marketing world, it has shifted tremendously in just even the 2-year span that we've experienced so far, right? That people are craving connection more than ever, but we didn't really know that obviously at the beginning necessarily. I think there was such a saturation of content out there, but it felt really heavy, you know? And so it was a really hard space to be around, to be consumed by it and to consume so much of it as well, that sometimes you just need a break. And the fatigue is very real, but seeing more so the client side of it being affected primarily for my business anyways, was that the impact that they were looking to make, you know, I was working with a lot of travel brands or also product-based ones that were showing in trade shows like One of a Kind and whatnot. And everything closed down quite rapidly during that time. And so they were moving forward in an unknown landscape during that, right? So instead, I decided to choose and focus my efforts and attention on social impact businesses and purpose-driven ones and nonprofits ultimately as well. And having that moving forward, it was always a core pillar of mine, but really stepping into that during the pandemic and beyond, it just feels really good for me to be able to help serve the people that really need it ultimately. And just based on my market research during these years too, is looking at, they don't have a dedicated communications department. Like they have a potentially limited resources, or, you know, you want to make sure that as much of your funding or sales are going towards that cause as possible. So I definitely acknowledge that, but making sure that you're getting the most return on that as possible where it counts, right?
Yeah. So a lot of folks like found their true purpose and really found niching down further and focusing on serving and helping during that time. And I had the same sort of thing happen with me. Is I took that time to really reflect on what I was doing, and I was, pretty intentional before, but I realized that in these last 2 years, I have grown a lot personally, like in terms of personal development, and that does affect your small business. And I try to look at what happened with COVID and the pandemic as an opportunity. We have to, as entrepreneurs, we have to look at everything as like, okay, what is God or the universe telling me right now? And how can I use this and spin it positively? So anyone who's still kind of struggling or worried about starting a business because of what's happening and the uncertainty, you really have to face it head on. And I'm interested to know, Christine, you're saying that there's things that have kind of changed maybe forever with respect to marketing. I know you said people are craving connection. And what's interesting is like in the beginning, it was all like social distancing. And on one hand, we're like, but we have to stay far away. And that just made us want to connect even more. And it seems almost counterintuitive where it's like, but we're online. How can we create that connection? So anyways, I'm interested to hear like what is sticking around to stay regardless of what happens with the pandemic when it comes to marketing and branding.
Yeah, personality, I feel like it's always been something that people either are very scared to showcase or are full on like living out their truth, and I think it's a beautiful thing to see this journey and transformation for folks out there, but also that there is room for everybody. And then that is also true that you can show up as you are. And mind you, I do preface for all my clients out there too, that you get to choose what you want to keep private and what you want to share with the world as well. And so on days that aren't necessarily always as glamorous or uplifting, that those are inevitably going to happen, especially in entrepreneurship, but that you still get to choose whether you want to share it with your community or not. But oftentimes when you do show up very vulnerably like that, that's where the relatability, that connection really does form a little bit further, those genuine relationships that you're looking to build that go beyond business. But like, I take a very human-centered approach to like design marketing in general, because I think that's the way that the world needs it to be as well, that we're all ultimately humans behind the screen first, before everything else. And so just reminding yourself that social media also was meant to be social and not about like all the likes all the time and the vanity metrics that can get muddled into it. So keeping that in mind and just making sure that you're building with a compassionate approach to things, it will always continue to serve you.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And also keeping in mind that just the same way that you experience stress and this this overload of emotions and the uncertainty with what we're living through right now in the pandemic, that like knowing that your client or customer is also experiencing those things. So what can I do to not be insensitive? What can I do to help them? What can I do to reduce their cognitive load? And it can be simple things too. Like if they're having to jump through hoops to talk to you or purchase your product, like nobody has the capacity for that anymore. And I know that one thing that we've learned in our with sales is that I've been returning to the sales call method, where before COVID, I had eliminated sales call for the most part for some of my services. So that's something that I'm kind of going back to and being able to kind of adapt to what my clients and customers needs. And I feel like COVID was a reminder of you're not going to have this one size fits all solution for the rest of the life of your business. You're always going to have to be adapting to what your customer needs. So that's something that has really changed for me with the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that evolution, adaptation of things is such a great skill set to have, and to see you experiment on, here on YouTube or like the video space, I think is definitely something that isn't going to fade away at any certain point.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the the one thing that brands can do right now to kind of stand out from the crowd? And I know you mentioned empathy and really that connection, but what's one like tangible thing they can start doing right now in this COVID world?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind. Obviously, as we talk about sales too, like there's so much embedded in identity, I feel like, and I'm sure through the work that you do with your clients as well, that this is very apparent. And so I've been reading Atomic Habits, and I just have related everything back to branding because that's the way that my brain sort of works. But, understanding that there's such a shift that happens when you have the tools and resources, plus the belief that you're worthy of this, to attract these things. And so it may sound a little bit woo perhaps out there, but being able to have like the tangible, brand identity that feels like integral to you and what the values that you have to represent, and potentially some like social templates to make your life a little easier, or your website set up to really help cater towards making your client's life easier. All these things are going to help attribute to how you show up more professionally, more credibly, to really ultimately be able to have the confidence to show up in a really authentic way, genuine way, to build those relationships, to ask for those big projects out there, to like say how much the project or the coaching package may be without hesitation. All these things have a ripple effect. So I would say if you feel like you want to save time and marketing spend down the road, like investing in really strong foundations with your branding and designs will really help serve you as well.
Yeah, I 110% agree. The confidence that comes with having your branding really aligned with who you are, that's one of the best investments I've ever made in my business. And it's just a point of pride almost too, when you have an amazing website, when your branding is on point. It really is something that people don't think is going to make a difference, but it does play into that mindset piece as well. And your brand is what other people, say about you when you're not in the room, and you want them to be saying good things, right? So I love that so much. And I was going to say that one of the things that a lot of us stopped doing when the pandemic started, and even now, is we stopped investing in our businesses and we stopped investing in ourselves. But now that it's been 2 and some odd years, this is our reality. And I think for you to really stop going forward and really just not allowing yourself to go forward is unfair to yourself and to your business, because I don't think that we will ever go back to what was before. And I don't want it to, actually, because there has been so many, positive leaps for us. Yeah. So I think the time is right now. And especially if you are watching this, there's a reason. I always say that I don't believe in coincidences. There's a reason that you're watching this. And maybe today is the day where you decide, you know what, I'm going to make my business work in this climate. This is how things are going to be. I am going to be adaptable and I'm going to evolve with whatever happens. And I know that I can move forward because that's the truth now. And, before we were coasting and then this happened, and now we all have this skill set where, like, give us a lockdown, give us like social distancing, like we got this now.
Yeah, that resilience, I think, is something that will help other entrepreneurs stand out. Definitely. I love that you brought that up, because it's made people more mentally resilient of what they can actually handle. You're a lot more stronger than you ever have imagined, I'm sure. And, just making sure that if you have gone through all of these things already, you're going to be so unstoppable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Now, I wanted to also share a couple of things that folks can do. I know you have something called, is it the brand party workshop or?
Yeah, I have a challenge coming up as well. So this way, if people do want a really accessible way to continue growing in their business and gain some brand clarity, then they're both free and pay what you choose options available to help you continue growing. And so with that, it is a unique week-long approach where we get to identify your core values, your color palette, your mood board for that overall look and feel that you're encompassing, but also to just come as you are in a safe community and to celebrate your brand. So you will get feedback as well, and access to a branding expert at your fingertips.
That's amazing. And I love that. One thing that I love that coaches and entrepreneurs are doing now is we are like providing services for free. Like there's things available for everyone. We know you're struggling. We were struggling too. And I just think being able to be in a place where you can offer things for free or pay what you can is so generous, and really generous of you, Christine, as well, because these things are so valuable. But I love seeking out entrepreneurs who are really thinking about the end customer or client. Yeah, we're struggling. We aren't making as much money as before. And again, yeah, I do think it's very generous for you to offer that as something that folks can take up right now. So I will share the link in the notes here from the show, and let me know if you guys try it out. I'm probably going to sign up as well, just because I love checking out. I love checking out new things.
Yeah.
And I guess, is there anything else that you want to leave the entrepreneurs with who are watching this? And I'm imagining some folks are watching this who are afraid to either start their business or take that next step. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, well, thank you so much again, Sada, for having me on here. I really appreciate you and your community, and for showing up this way. I think being able to remember like why you started your business to begin with is something that we kind of start forgetting perhaps, or we don't reconnect with it as often as we do many years later down the road, or after all of these like hurdles that you have already experienced. But really coming back to why you started will help propel you so much further on the days that doubt, fear, all these things kick in inevitably. But just as we've talked about today, just really pushing through with that proactive, adaptive, open approach to things, that's going to work for you and be able to help connect you with what matters most.
Beautiful. So it is all about that intention. Why did you start in the first place? Something that I always do with my clients is we start everything by setting an intention, and we actually, like, I have them printed out or write it on a post-it note so it's in front of them when they're working. So there you have it, guys. Make sure you start with an intention. And I thought of this quote while you were talking about the resilience and adapting and evolving. It's from Marie Forleo. Everything is figure outable. And it's true, guys. Everything, you have the tools, you got it, you got here so far, right? Like, you are where you are right now because you figured things out. So you will definitely be able to figure this out as well. Thank you so much, Christine. And I will see you guys all in our next YouTube video. If you have any comments, you can put them in, you can type them in below. Take care, everyone. Bye.